before I actually start, I'd just like to make a couple of thanks actually to Chris and the NLS for hosting the event in the fine surroundings here, and to the JISC, the Joint Information Systems Committee, for providing the funding for this project. Some people actually have to go to work, and do hard work, whereas this was a very enjoyable experience. So, I'd also like to thank the advisory board, Professor Richard Rogers and Dr. Alex Murdoch from the university, and Chris from NLS, and Fiona Miles from the Edinburgh City Libraries, and of course Nicola and Joe, Nicola Osborne and Joe Vernon, who just snuck in the back there, who are on the project team and who have been they've added significantly to the project with their energy and sort of dynamism. So I'd just like to thank them. So as I say, my name is Stuart Macdonald from EDINA. I don't know if you're familiar with EDINA. It's a JISC-funded national data centre. There's two in the UK, one based at Manchester, one based at Edinburgh, and we deliver research data services to the tertiary education community in the UK, free at the point of use for subscribing institutions, free at the point of use for academics and students, for subscribing institutions. So I'm going to give you a sort of a brief sort of overview of addressing history, and we are aware of a lot of the issues that Professor Morris was referring to there. We were a rapid innovations project, 6 months, April to the end of September. It was funded by the JISC, as I say, the Developing Community Content strand of the e-content and digitisation programme. We were very fortunate to be partnering with the National Library. There's a sort of I suppose you could say a sort of symbiosis in terms of we have expertise in terms of spatial services and software developers, and there's a rich resources that NLS have, so it seems to be quite a nice marriage. And as I said, I mentioned before about the advisory board there, who provided guidance and instructions in terms of how to proceed with the project. Again, this is just to kind of give you a brief overview of what we're trying to achieve, to create an online crowdsourcing tool using Web 2 principles, which some of you may be familiar with, to combine data from the trade directories, the Scottish Post Office directories, which are precursors, I suppose, to Yellow Pages. I don't know if that's an apt analogy or not, but so it's combining data from these trade directories with data from historical maps of the same era. Some of you may have heard of the Australian Historic Newspapers Project at the National Library of Australia, and it's a sort of similar exercise. Basically, the general public can actually register and edit, add, and improve the text of old newspapers in that particular instance. As I say, this is a short project, so we focused on 3 volumes of the Edinburgh Post Office directories. It's arguable whether they're important points in history, but 1784, 85, 1865, 1905, 1906. As Kate mentioned earlier, the NLS have digitised 20,000 maps of Scotland, 500 or so of Edinburgh. So we're using the mapping from NLS. And also the Post Office directories have been digitised by the National Library in conjunction with the Internet Archive. And the content is IPR free. I think it's Creative Commons actually, share alike and attribution share alike, I think it is. So the content is in the public domain, which is fitting for this particular type of project. Excuse me. So users can actually go in and search the 3 directories to actually interact with the content. So the tool can actually allow you to actually to geo-reference a listing in the Post Office directory. I'm hoping that most people are familiar with the Post Office directories, not to be too generic, but you have an individual, an address, and the value here is this idea of the occupation, which we think has it adds that richness to the resource. So you can actually geo-reference that listing in simplistic terms there. So you're actually opening up the resource to a whole range of other spatially referenced resources, such as spatially referenced photographs, images, census records, etc. So it's a kind of hinge that you can actually distribute this and expose it to a whole range of other resources, which I think is kind of one of the sort of critical elements to this project. So as I say, the adding of or the moving of this map pin actually georeferences the post office directory, and the contents held in an XML database, and the actual mechanism and actually the way that the data was processed, etc. Joe may well be able to sort of provide further details as to the rules that were actually deployed in order to actually get the data in that structure. In terms of the actual Google, their role in this exercise, what we did was with the XML content, we parsed the content against using a thing called the Google geocoder, which automatically assigns a spatial reference to the listings. Now, where it actually doesn't, where it, as Professor Morris was saying there, these sort of irregularities, it may just pick up a street name, so it'll assign a grid reference. So you're actually talking about this degree of accuracy. Sometimes you'll pick up a house, sometimes it'll be a street. Very often, if the street, for example, St John's Street, I think that's what it was called, doesn't exist, it will give a geo-reference to the centre of Edinburgh. So there's these sort of elements that we're hoping that people can come in, recognise what we're talking about, and change these elements. We are investigating this through a school portal called Glow, perhaps looking at developing learning and teaching materials for school kids. And you've also got at the other end of the age spectrum, individuals who are working in local history, who are perhaps retired, or family history. So we've built this tool, we hope, that's easy to use, sort of intuitive for a whole wide range of users. And it's also been built to accommodate the 400 or so Scottish Post Office directories which are being digitised. And we'll hear a bit more about that this afternoon, later on, sorry. I mentioned there earlier on there about sort of the crowdsourcing of the mass geocoded content. We'll be deploying logs, etc., so that we can actually check the user-generated content, so that people that are actually editing georeferences, names, professions, we can actually check this and authenticate it and mediate, etc. And it is our aim to have the original database, but with this alongside this other crowdsource or user-generated content. Part of the funding agreement with the JISC was that we engaged with the general public, the communities, etc., obviously being the very nature of this particular project. So we were in contact with Edinburgh Beltane Beacon of Partnership and the College for Humanities and Social Sciences Knowledge Transfer Office. We have the luxury at EDINA of having a social media officer, Nicola, who's been, as I say, been doing some fantastic work in terms of exposing this particular tool and the API, the application programming interface, through a whole range of channels, the social media channels, some of which are there. Vimeo is another one, and there's RSS feeds and stuff like that. So I'm going to hand you over quickly now to Nicola, who's going to walk you through this social media components.
Okay. Hello, can everyone hear me okay? Yes. So I'm going to start off by saying that I think Professor Morris did a fantastic job explaining why we need all of you to help us get all the data looking good. So my job has been to try and make sure that everyone knows project's going on and are geared up. I got some of you around the room I recognise and know of as bloggers who've been writing about us and people who've been covering the project. So I'm expecting you now all to like rush into action and start editing our entries for us and really help us get the data up to scratch. So there's lots of ways I've been trying to communicate with you and with other people in the community. And primarily that's been through our blog, which has been our hub of activity. We've been trying to post items on Scottish history, on events, on fringe shows to do that we think are loosely related to Edinburgh and Scottish history that you might be interested in. We've been trying to put regular project updates on there, progress reports. An announcement about the preview went up there, so any of you that registered for the preview, that was the kind of first place we announced it. Also our press appearances, we were in the Herald on Monday, which is very exciting, and hopefully we'll be in some more places this week. And various items you think you might find interesting. And I'd like to say at this point, if there's anything that you're not seeing on the blog that you'd like to see there, I would relish anybody coming forward and sort of offering me some suggestions for content or writing guest posts, because we've had some fantastic guest bloggers already. I've had a couple of guest posts from Chris, who's given us very specific, specialist map-related blog postings, and one fantastic one on the history of Causeway Side, which is of interest to Chris because the map library is there, but also to us because our office is there as well. But it's also a really interesting area of Edinburgh because it is slightly outside the centre, and you can sort of see the history of the Middlemas Biscuit Factory if you look at that blog post. But we've also had a fantastic blog post from Australia about the use of post office directories there. We actually had some flyers distributed to Australia as well by someone very nice in the room. And we've also had a guest post from a genealogist talking about how she uses directories in her work. And I want to see lots more on the blog here. So if you have a local history community that you would like to represent on there, or you would like to get their voice out, or publicise an event, I'm really happy to put it up on there because I want this to be a space that connects to both the tool and to the community. And I've been trying to do that. Twitter has helped us find some fantastic supporters and friends and feedback on the project. It's also led to some articles about the project. It's led to previews. We've had recommendations, and those fantastic guest bloggers came through Twitter. So I just want to kind of, if you're using Twitter, which some of you may be, we have a hashtag for today. It's AHLaunch. So do tweet to that. You can even tweet sort of critical things about what you do and don't like about the tool. But it's been one of the channels that we've had more excitement from than we thought we would, because we didn't realise just how many local historians and genealogists there were out on there. So I've been really excited to have contact in all these different places. We also have a Facebook page. So if you think that you've got extended family members or colleagues or local history groups on there that should connect to the project, especially now that the site's going to be going live in sort of 5 minutes, please put them in the direction of that, because it's a really good way to share things they find interesting, have a discussion about bits of family history. We've just been trying to reach out as wide as possible, because the thing with crowdsourced data is you need a really big crowd. And I'm hoping that everyone in this room is part of our crowd, but there's lots of people outside the room that you can also bring into our crowd. Sound a bit like I'm trying to start a cult. I promise I'm not. We've also got a few new treats in store as of this week. We have a new Flickr account where we've got lots of high-resolution images of the physical pods, because I agree with Professor Morris, the physical pods tell you a lot about what it is you're looking at. So we've got some images there just to give you a sense of where this data's come from. We've also got some images there, the sort of screenshots of the website, and you can use any of those images on your own blogs and websites and in your own publications. So just feel free to use those, and just let us know when you're mentioning us so we can flag it up. We're also going to be putting up some HTML badges for websites and blogs as well. So if you want to share with other people that you're contributing to Addressing History, that you're adding data there, you can just add a little badge onto your blog, very proudly, hopefully. And we have some videos about the project. We have a video of Richard Roger and Chris Fleet talking about the post office directories and the maps and why that connection is important. And we also have a video of Jamie and Zaria, who are the Internet Archive scanners, who will show you how they've gone from being a physical directory into being a digital file. We've got some more videos to come that will explain how it went from that into Addressing History.